I was asking that, is it what I personally...
Yes, one key lesson for you, because the whole idea of the training is that if you finish a class, there must be something that is significant to you that you can immediately start working with, you know, that you can begin to make a change about. So that's why we talk about your key takeaway from the class, okay?
Well, for me, it would be that though I'm not done, but I'm beginning to strategize how to all of our assets, especially the one that is facility, equipment, assign the strategy, the maintenance strategy for each of them.
Very good, fantastic. That's a good one. That's a fantastic lesson. I mean, there are people who have learned, who have worked in FM for 20 years, 18 years, and they never, ever, ever, you know, talked about assigning a strategy for their maintenance, you know. So well done. Olayemi, please go ahead. Yes, before you start, Olayemi, I know I'm owing you something. Yes, so don't worry, I'll get it through. I just remember as I'm looking at your face and I remember your message. Sometimes I do 3 days work in one day, so getting around everything may not be as easy as that, but I'll get through to it, yeah? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Actually, what I just want to give from my past experience, I've actually been able to have opportunity of working using some tools for this predictive maintenance. And I want to emphasize the importance. I think one of my bosses then attended a course similar to this, where he was exposed to the importance and everything. And he came back to the factory, then I was working with flour mills. And he gave us the importance. I mean, he shared the knowledge with us. And then from there, he began to work towards increasing our knowledge. And I was part of the people that were picked. 3 of us were picked to have this infrared thermography training for us to be able to predict, like it's part of what was listed here. Sure. I just want to emphasize the importance of these things. Very, very key especially when we have high failure rates, and then where we have like in the factory, for example, during the peak period, during the rainy season, that's when they maximize the profits. And then they don't want, we have the planned preventive maintenance program. So at this particular point in time, they don't want anything to disturb the production because they want to maximize the profits. Sure. So we switch to the predictive maintenance mode, that the machines only stop when it is needed. And then that's where we came in. So we have to assess this equipment when the machines are rolling to know which one of them actually need to be stopped for maintenance. And this tool was quite useful and is applicable in different areas. So just to collaborate what we have been mentioning. And for us, if we have the opportunity, we can as well get this training. Okay. And yes, sir. Thank you. And then what I took away was this RCM, reliability centered maintenance, and how to be able to optimize, combine all these predictive, reactive maintenance and preventive, how to be able to strike a balance between them. Very good. So I'm still working on myself to be able to see how I can optimize this in every way. Fantastic. And that there are some that have been working before, that this one must be preventive. Now, some of them we just have allowed them to break down. So we can maximize the knowledge, I mean, the advantage that we can have from it. So that's my take home, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, that's good. James, doesn't look like you're in class. If I see your face, I'll give you an opportunity to speak. Looks like Isaac is here. Isaac, you can go on.
Good afternoon, Mr. Paul. Good afternoon, colleagues.
Good afternoon, welcome.
My takeaway from our previous class was preventive plant maintenance. You know, we have been doing this thing in our organization here, but I didn't know it's known as preventive plant maintenance. You know, our generators, we normally service them when they reach 250. They are due for service, and also the ACs, we have a planned time to service them. So we've been doing this, but I did not know. So when we were talking about this, then my mind was like, oh, so we were doing this type of maintenance.
Okay, thank you. Fantastic. Thank you. All right, James, you can speak now.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, welcome.
Yes, sorry, I was a bit late. I was driving, so I just got home now.
Welcome.
Okay, sorry, my take from the last class was I got to understand what predictive was, and I didn't know there was anything like predictive before.
Okay.
I didn't know of the run to failure and
preventive.
The preventive, yes, but with the knowledge of this predictive and the RCM, that really helped, for me to understand some few things. So there are some things that goes on that that these things are predictive.
Okay.
The predictive this thing. So
okay.
Thank God for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ilyasu, let's hear your takeaway, please.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, my colleague.
Wow.
Good evening.
My takeaway in the last class was that I now know the strategic facility planning. I really love that aspect, most especially where you now differentiated between strategic facility plan and facility master plan. The difference was clear to me. When you were explaining, I was just saying, wow. So this thing has a very big, has a very big differences like this.
You're actually talking about the one you learned about today's class, the material that you got. The one that you're supposed to be talking of now is the last class.
Previous class.
That was on maintenance strategies. The one that we did predictive, preventive, and run to failure.
Oh, okay. In that aspect, I learned about preventive maintenance as well. I think people have said a lot of things that I wanted to say already. Because actually in my organization here, we do the same. We service generator, we maintain our most feeder pillars. So I wouldn't know that, yes, we are doing preventive maintenance until when you are saying it.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let me do random to the room. Adedayo, Lucy, Aziz, and Ramoni. 4 of you will speak for 1 minute each. Key takeaway that no one else has mentioned.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome.
My name is Adevi Adedayo. And the things I learned in last class, firstly, the run to failure maintenance fund. As the name even implies, it sounds somehow to me until I get to the knowledge of what it takes, what it means. Because when I saw the mails for that lecture, I don't really understand. But going through the class, I really enjoyed it and I understood everything. And most especially the RCM, which combines 2 methods together. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Okay. It really helped me today at work, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good to know. Thank you so much. Aziz, yes, go ahead, please.
So what I got from the last lesson was that I've always noticed my FM just leaves some of our equipment to run continuously, and at the moment it just asks me to check through some parameters, and then when it gets to a set point or a set configuration, it just calls in someone to come and maintain it. And I've always been worried, like, why did you leave this to run all till this moment and you've not done anything about it? But I've never asked up until the last class when I learned that there's something called predictive maintenance. So what I understand from that class is that he has been able to predict when the equipment was going to break down. He has known what is probably going to break down from that equipment. So he has been running predictive maintenance, and I've not even been able to figure out why he has been doing that until you mentioned it. So this class has really helped me a lot in understanding more of what I've been seeing that I do not even know the reason it has been done. So that's my takeaway.
Super. Thank you so much. Ramone. You're muted. Still muted. Appears you don't hear us because your audio is not coming out.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that I learned in the last class has to do with the aspect of combining strategies. That is RC.
RCM.
And yes, I now have the full understanding that within the same system, we can have as many as 2 or 3 strategies, depending on the critical condition of the asset and then the financial aspect of this as well. That's one. The other thing is the predictive. The predictive. Yes, I know of preventive, but the predictive has to do with the data-driven strategies. It actually exposes me to the fact that the observations and the analysis of the asset itself needs to be done before you even embark on a particular maintenance or repair. And coupled with the fact that it assists to make a projection as to when it's going to develop, the cost, and the kind of effects that can happen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Lucy. Lucy, you can go ahead now if you are able to speak. The network working okay? Hello, Lucy, do you hear me? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Marutala, do you want to go? Give a shot at what you learned from the last class.
Good evening.
Good evening, welcome.
Yeah, from the last class, I was able to take away the types of maintenance we have. I never knew there was anything like predictive actually. I only know of the run to failure and the preventive. So from the last class, I knew that there are some softwares which you can use, which you can put in place so you can predict when your facility or when your asset is going to develop a fault or when it's supposed to be maintained.
Okay.
So I was able to take that away from the class.
That was good. Thank you so much. Answer.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Paul.
Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, all. I want to say thank you so much for shedding a lot of light on this topic. And I actually had a very broad understanding of it. And the high point was at the point where you said most of the things we do in the building, they are all related to run to failure maintenance strategy. Yeah. And 10% of it is on predictive maintenance. And also at the point where you said most of our critical assets, we should always assign predictive maintenance to them. Those are my learning points.
That's good.
And again, I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
In all of these, where is the place of Internet of Things? Because it's the instrument that we use to actually make sure that we get our predictive maintenance strategy right. So where is the place of Internet of Things, all of this?
Well, I think it's all about sensors. So Internet of Things is talking about remote access to sensor data. All of the data you use for predictive are all sensors driven. It has to be sensors to pick up signals of temperature, of vibrations, of electrical current and charges. Whatever you measure is based on sensors. If you go to the device to see what the sensors is reading, that's no longer remote. But if you are away and you can have access to it remotely, then there's internet installed. That's where Internet of Things come in. You need to differentiate. When we do technology class, you will get a broader sense of how IoT helps facility management. Because we're going to look at so many technologies that IoTs and sensors are embedded into. And that will give you more insights into your question, okay?
Thank you so much.
Should I take one more? Who's going to volunteer to give one more takeaway that has not been spoken about from last class? I see Tammy is in the class. Tammy, I'm not seeing your face, but you are here. Tammy, I'm seeing your face, but Lucy is back. Yeah. John, I don't know if John is on listen only mode today. I have not seen her face today. At least I need one lady to give me a takeaway. Then we can move on. Lucy, your audio is not coming through. Check if you have your headset plugged in or yes.
Okay. We'll have to.
All right, go ahead, Lucy. Lucy, your audio is coming through. If you speak, I'm sure we will hear. No.
The last class. The first one is from everything you talked about, you said we must understand methods, goals, advantages and disadvantages of every asset. And secondly, you said maintenance must always be in agreement with the objectives of it. So those are my two take-homes from last class.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so now that I've heard from at least one of the ladies in the house, I'm going to go straight to the class for today. But before then, I would like to find out if anyone has a challenge for our solution session. Anybody with any work-related professional development issues that you may want to bring up so we can solve one problem before we go into this class? Okay. I also like to find out if there's anybody in class today that was not here the day we did introductions. So you can introduce yourself. Just raise your hand up so I can recognize you to introduce yourself. You're going to tell us your name, where you work, where you stay, what kind of, not the city where you work, rather the company you work in and the function you perform, right? And what you want to get out of this class. How many of us were not here when we did the general introduction so you can do your introduction and meet your classmates? I should expect at least 5 hands up. Okay, Ramoni, you're one. You don't. Are you not able to see the raise hand function in your device?
I can't find it yet.
You can't find it, and that happens every now and then. I see sometimes some people can find, some people cannot find it, and that's pretty weird. If you click on the more, check if it is hidden inside the more on your.
Yes, it's there.
It's there. Aha, fantastic. So use it from there. Yes. Maybe that's what happened. All right. So Victor, let's start from you. You need to show us your face. Victor, Peter, show us your face and tell us who you are, where you work, what role you perform, and what you hope to get out of this program. Okay. Starting with Victor Janaku. The audio is, you are muted.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm Victor Ajanoku. I'm a realtor. I stay in Lagos State.
Okay. Working for yourself or work for one of the big realtors?
I work with different companies.
Okay.
Basically, I partner with them.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic.
So I'm also an accountant as well. So.
Fantastic. Okay, cool.
like
cool.
a freelance.
Excellent. So what do you hope to get out of this program?
I was looking to basically switch field
Very good.
and become an FM
manager. Fantastic. Excellent. Welcome. All right, Ramoni Akim, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
My name is Ramoni Akim Kowaladi. I presently work with Digital One Co, the branch in Ibadan, and I'm an estate holder and valuer. I decided to join the program because I actually want to switch and beginning to have interest in facility management. And sometimes last year I got an interview relating to facility management. So I couldn't do well because I don't know the rudiments and the experience was not there. So I was expecting them to call me back. After a while, I didn't have their call. So I was relating with a friend who had gone the training, who is now working with one company in Lagos, being acting as a facility manager. So when we were talking, I got to know I didn't know anything about this field. So I decided to embark on the training so that I can be more exposed and to adventure opportunity comes up in that line and as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Peter Lawal, have you done your introduction before in this class?
No, sir.
Okay, let's hear from you now then.
All right, my name is Peter Lawal. Sorry, I'm in traffic right now. So that's why you have the background noise. I'm a junior solar engineer. Yeah, I studied physics electronics. Yeah, so this program for me is more like a switch, and from the little I've read about it, it's not far from what I'm working with, but at least it's more like all inclusive.
Okay.
And I like fields a bit challenging like that. It's what I'm hoping to get is more knowledge as in diversification from what I already know and being able to go into more fields as well.
Okay, thank you very much. You're welcome. You can put your video off now, okay? That was one big exception to the rules of the class to allow you to speak. I wasn't quite sure where you were until you put on your mic and realized you were in a bus. It's against the rule of the class to allow you to speak into the class when you are in a bus, but we're happy to welcome you into the class and excited that you're here. So that exception is granted. James Beaver, have you introduced yourself to this class? Is James here? James Weaver, sorry.
Yes, sir.
James, have you introduced yourself to this class?
Hello?
Have you introduced yourself to this class before?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay, so let's hear from you. Tell us your name, where you work, where you are, and what you do, and add to that what you hope to get out of this program, okay?
Okay, Summer James River. I stay in Sierra Leone. I'm working for SEBO, designated to Standard Chartered Bank. Currently, I'm the health and safety officer, but I decided to join the class because I have a very close relationship with FM manager, and I love to become FM in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you. You're welcome. Good one, James. Okay, have I talked to everybody in this class? Let's see. Who has not introduced himself? Volunteer yourself before I find you out. Okay, maybe I've talked to everybody. Olushola Latif, have you introduced yourself to this class? Olushola, you've introduced us to this class before. You're muted. Please unmute.
Hello, sir.
Yes, have you introduced yourself before?
Yeah, I've done that, sir.
You have.
I'm one of the guys attending class at Unilag, sir.
At the office, yes. You came to training center. Fantastic. Maybe that's why, because that day you were hiding behind the camera. You came only on screen once. Okay, that's good. That's good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Adelaya Adetayo, I think we have met you in this class, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. All right, thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to get into the class proper for today. Strategic facility planning. Just let me know when you're seeing my screen. So I'd like to start this class with what I call the big picture. Many facility managers are familiar with one aspect of facility management where we do the day-to-day operations, where we plan the budgets, put a contract in place for a service provider to provide the service. We order materials, we develop, schedules for work and put rosters in place. We develop work processes. For those of us that are very sophisticated work processes like permit to work systems, safe work management systems. We have certain software that we use to track and monitor activities. We do inventory management. We buy supplies and stocks. We put them in store and we manage them, and we order. We do energy-related stuff like energy accounting. We do tenant billing. We do service charge calculations. We put maintenance programs in place where we have maintenance plans that goes with certain routine for doing certain things at several or certain intervals or frequencies. We also create design and construction plans when we have to do a renovation, install a new equipment. And so we feel quite comfortable that we are doing facility management, because that's all facility management is for most people. Everybody from your employers in the demand organizations to your managers in the FM world to you who is developing and deploying these processes, to those on the shop floor who you are managing and supervising. Everybody just thinks FM exists at that level. What happens at the tactical planning level, which I'll come back to as we run from the top down, is actually what and how FM is done. But why FM is done is superior to what and how, and they come from strategic levels. If what you do is mostly based on tactical considerations and tactical planning, you have missed out on 3 levels of strategic planning, and that's why we are starting with the big picture. In last week's lesson, when we were talking about maintenance strategy, you'll see a pattern emanating from the way this course is running. We want you to first elevate your thinking to understand why. It's only by understanding why you can be good at doing what and how. If you don't understand strategy, you'll be making a lot of mistakes in what you do and how you do them, and you will be the last person to know you are making mistakes. So think about a career that has taken you through years and years of being purely on the tactical and operational levels. is a wasted career, in fact. And that's why it's good you are here today, so that you can learn about the things that makes the difference between a super excellent, high-performing, high-efficient, highly effective and highly efficient facility manager and the ordinary facility manager who does not see beyond his nose, basically. Okay? Excuse me, I need to take a very loud work from some construction. I hope they can cooperate with me on that. So where do you start facility management from if it's not at the tactical level? It starts at the level we call the strategic purpose level. The strategic purpose level is the level at which the reason for the organization's existence is established, and that is the customers. Every organization exists because of a certain group of customers, a certain public, a certain demand drivers or users of their services. Whether it's a profit organization or a non-profit organization or a governmental organization, it exists because there is an audience. It exists because there is a customer base. Otherwise, it will not be created or bettered in the first place. Okay? Now, if an organization exists because of its customer base, if the customer base change, the organization will be expected to what? Change or find new customers. If you cannot change or find new customers, the organization will cease to exist. And if an organization grows, it's because of the prosperity brought about by the customers. If it diminishes, it is because of the opposite to that scenario. So in essence, an organization's planning, which is the strategic planning level, is a direct response to the strategic purpose level. The organization comes up with strategic plans, which we call the corporate strategy, made up of its mission, its vision, its values, its culture, its strategic objectives. These together are formed to respond to what the customers actually want, to who the customers are, their expectations, and what they are willing to part with in exchange for what the organization has to give them as value. So it's value in exchange for some form of monetary reward or other kind of reward or other kind of value exchange. That's what takes place between the organization and its customers. So the organization coming up with its vision, its mission, its values, its culture, and strategic objectives will only be a response. If you have a vision for something else and the customers you currently have are not responding to that vision, it brings you back to my earlier assertion that you will either have to find new customers who understands your vision, can align and subscribe to it, or what do? You either get new customers or you change as an organization to fit the requirements of your current customers. Why should an FM be interested in something as high level as the type of customers our business attracts? Because of two reasons. First, your priorities can only be right if they directly and closely align with the priorities of the organization you are serving. And secondly, everything you do within the organization impacts someone who directly affect the experience or outcomes that the customers get. So, in some instances, you may not be directly involved with the external customers, but you are involved with some people who have direct impacts on the customer experience. And you will be creating the internal experiences that are automatically translated or transferred to the customers that you are serving. All right, so that's why you cannot even do any of the things you do at your tactical level without understanding why your organization exists, who are its customers, what are their expectations, how does my services affect the outcomes that these customers want. Okay, so today we will be talking about quality as a competence or skill that the FM should have. We'll be talking a lot about key performance indicators on that day. Key performance indicators are directly derived from the organization's strategic objectives. If I provide security services as an FM, the key performance indicators of my security service to the organization has nothing to do with how well I provide my security services, but has everything to do with how critical my security services is or are to the organization achieving its strategic objective. So KPIs should always be linked to corporate strategy and strategic objectives. You see why you cannot do anything right at the bottom without understanding the things at the top. Because you're not driving for performance if you don't understand why the organization exists, what it is trying to achieve, what are its high-level goals. Those goals, you must have contribution to them before you can say, I am part of this organization, I am providing value. And the only way you can provide value or contribute to the organization's goals is if you deeply understand the customer, understand the organization. And what is there to understand about the organization's strategic plan? Its vision. Where is my organization heading? The vision usually started with to be ABC, right? The organization is having a vision to become or to be, which is a statement that describes an end destination. We want to be number one in this or that. We want to be the go-to organization for this or that. We want to be the center of attraction for that and that. That's how vision statements are written. Why should everybody in the organization, including the facility management team, understand the vision? Every step you take, every move you make has an impact on arriving at that destination. So you must understand the vision, where we want to be as an organization. You must understand the mission. The mission is what we want to do to be able to get to our vision. So that's my way of linking the two. Where I want to be or what I want to become is my vision. How I want to get there is my mission. The values of the organization is now something that directs, predicts, dictates the behaviors of individuals within the organization. So if you say we have a value of customer focus, customer centricity, like we read in many organizations' value statements, it means that everything we do on the path, the mission, to the end results or goal, the vision, we will intently and deeply focused on the customer, ensuring that we always meet the aspirations of our customers. That's a value statement. If you now work in such an organization and you start hearing things like, these customers are terrible, lock the door, let them not come in, for example, or shut them out, put off the phone so that their calls will not come through, you would have found yourself in a culture that is at variance with your value. Your value is what you write down, what you espouse way of behavior. That's your value. We will be honest. We'll have a high level of integrity. That's what we wrote down as our value. Our culture, however, is what we actually do. Our real-time behavior is what our culture is. So, just the way I linked vision and mission. Vision, what you want to become, where you want to arrive at. Mission, how you want to get there, your means of getting there, what you'll be doing to get to your vision. That's how I want to link value and culture. Value is what you stated as the behavior that we sign up to. Culture is the real behavior. It is not written down, it is observed. So if you have a clean, positive culture, it means that there is an alignment between your culture, what you do, and your values, what you have stated as what you will do or how you will behave. So why should the facility manager care about the vision? Of course, you want to contribute to the vision. The mission, you want to do things that are aligned. If you are doing things that are not aligned with where the organization is going, you are derailing the mission. You are becoming a stumbling block to achieving the organization's goals. What about values? If we espouse a certain value, the FM cannot be having a different set of values. Otherwise, you will be, again, working against the organization's ability to reach its destination. The facility manager must live in an environment, work with people, work for people. If that culture is toxic, negative, and there are certain cultures that they tend to kill the good in you. If that's what you are struggling with, then you need to understand it, because what we teach in facility management is that you should not be a thermometer. You should be a thermostat. A thermostat regulates, sets. A thermometer, what does it do? It adjusts, it fits in. So if you are the facility manager in such an environment, understanding the values and seeing the level of misalignment of behaviors and attitudes to the values will help you set the thermometer straight. I will bring in ethical behavior. I will bring in certain etiquettes into my professional way of doing things in this organization. I begin to set standards that the organization can begin to look up to. That way, I'll be contributing to the culture of the organization. And then the strategic objectives. Because the organization needs to deliver certain deliverables to meet customer requirements at the strategic purpose level, it needs to now break down its mission. I told you the mission is how you're going to arrive at your vision, right? You need to break down the mission into specific activities, goals, objectives, milestones that must be achieved in order to know that you are on the mission to the vision. So strategic objectives are a breakdown of our high-level a mission into packages that can be managed, into milestones that can be deployed to arrive at the end results of our mission, or rather our vision at this stage. It's okay. I spoke to them. Thanks. All right. Now, we move down from the corporate strategy level, which is the strategic planning level, to the business unit strategic planning level. This is the level at which you, as a facility management department, need to now create your own strategies. At this level, you are doing two things. You are making strategies that align closely with the strategy of the corporate. They must align. Your vision must be in harmony. Your mission must be in harmony. Your own strategic plan in the form of the master plan and the strategic facility plan must also be in harmony. They must derive their power or authority from the organization's strategic objectives, and then they must feed in value, contribute to the achievement of those strategic objectives. Secondly, the facility management as a strategic business unit must create strategic plans that closely aligns with all the other business units. And this is very critical. Reason is, as facility managers, we don't come to work like others. We don't come to work with others. We come to work for others. We are the strategic enabler of the success of the organization, which makes us the strategic enabler of the success of all other business units. You cannot afford to have a business unit that is at loggerheads with FM or that you are having rivalry with. You can't, because your job is to facilitate their success. And for you to facilitate their success, you must understand their own strategy. So as an FM, you are not only trying to understand the strategy of your organization, you are also trying to understand the strategy of the various business units that operate within the core business of the organization. So you are thinking about how to succeed as an FM. And that brings you to what you can do to help your organization succeed, because if your organization succeeds, then you have succeeded. But the various business units that make up your organization are the ones that produce the results that the organization can tag as a success or what? Failure. So for you to be successful and for the organization to be successful, you must fully understand the strategies of every business unit. You must understand what they are trying to achieve. You must understand exactly how your own efforts, your own results will feed into their success. And you must prioritize everything to ensure that they succeed. You must prioritize that at all times. So by the time you get down to tactical planning, you want to put in contracts for this and that, you want to create certain projects, you want to develop systems to do this and that, you want to employ certain people to work internally and so on and so forth. By the time you get here, you know why you are doing what you are doing. In fact, any facility manager that has strategic planning in place has long-term plans that have been pre-approved, will not have any challenge with management at the tactical level. everything you do at the tactical level would have been fully understood by management because it fully aligns with what management is trying to achieve. And every idea, initiative, innovation, any business case you bring forward to seek management's approval for, to execute your daily activities, will be approved. Why? You had already gone through the process of strategy formulation in alignment with the strategy of the full organization. They will mostly be getting approved. Approved. Go ahead, get your money and go and deliver the job. Every time there is any such disagreements between senior management and the FM leadership, I will always tell you, strategic planning had not taken place. If strategic planning took place, there will be no iota of misunderstanding, no element of misalignment between the FM leadership and the overall organization. Because your work in developing a strategy is 90% understanding your organization. Everything about the business model. And we're going to be looking at that in a bit. Okay? If you do have clear operations plans, which includes your emergency plans, includes your contract and service level agreements, it includes your staffing plans, it includes your communication plans, it includes your schedule for all kinds of activities. And then you have your maintenance plans. Plans to deploy one of three strategies in an RCM approach to your maintenance. And then you have your budget, which details what you will do, how you will do them, when you will do them in the next 1 year, for example. And for those capital projects, you have project plans, you have designs for them, and you are implementing them. All of this you are doing at the tactical level. When these plans are put in place, they are called execution. You are moving to the 4th level. That's the 5th level now, which is the execution level. At this level, you are actually doing. This is what we call the operational level in FM. So at this level, you have the contractor bringing his workers to do things that have been specified in their contract. You have your own team waking up every day to do certain set tasks. Budgets have been approved at tactical level. Funds are being released and you're spending it on a daily basis. You have inventory of materials. You are tracking your assets. You are doing all kinds of activities to implement what you have planned at the tactical level. So another name for the execution level is what we call the operations level. So we can easily group the first 3 levels of strategy: strategic purpose level, strategic planning level, and business unit strategic planning level as the 3 levels of strategy, of FM strategy. The tactical planning level is the tactical level of FM implementation. And then the execution level is the operational level. So if I were to simplify this, I'll simplify it into strategic, tactical, and what? Operational. But we had to put in a lot of effort to break down the strategic level into 3 levels deliberately, so that you understand the difference and how deep, how important that work is before you get to the tactical points and the operational. If you execute, you need to develop a series of metrics that tracks how you are performing through reporting, through analysis. And that's what we call the measurement level. So if you are performing your day-to-day tasks and you are not gathering data that will help you trend how you are doing with respect to setting strategic goals and setting tactical action plans, then you are just drifting about. If whatever you report on does not have a sense of trending or pattern, whatever you are reporting on should either be expected to tend upwards, more profits. Profit should always go up, for example. So if I'm measuring profit, it should be going up. Either trend up, trend down. There are certain negative things that you must be tracking and reporting that must be trending down for you to be seen to be making progress towards your mission and vision. My costs per unit service or products, should it be going up or coming down? I want it to be coming down. Not my total cost, because my total cost will be driven by the volume of services and the products I produce. But my unit cost, for example, of energy per person, per square meter, should be going down. That is improvement. There are also other things like customer commendations that should be going down, that should be going up rather. And then there are things that you should be measuring and tracking that should be kept within a mean. When we talk about predictive maintenance, for example, we talked about certain data that you should be ensuring stay within a certain mean so that when it trends up out of that range, you know that the problem is going to occur, isn't it? So these are the things that are worth reporting on. Now, if you are producing reports, you are tracking historically and trending and analyzing. What are you doing with this data? If you are not able to feed this data back, feed this analysis back to ask questions like, is it the right strategy I'm deploying? So that I can tweak my strategy. Is it the right tactical planning I'm deploying? All these many contractors running around, is it the best strategy for my tactical plans? Or should I have a single source contractor, for example? I'm validating strategy because I'm gathering data and analyzing them to ask myself, is my strategy right? Or is it that I'm not executing my strategy right? Are there changes I need to make at multiple levels? It is because I'm measuring performance. So I go from the customers, the purpose level, strategy purpose level, to the corporate strategy planning level, to the business unit, which is the FM, which is the business unit strategy planning level, up to the facility managers planning, which is the tactical planning level, to the execution, the day-to-day operations. And then my reporting, my measurement level, reporting, tracking, trending, analysis. And the use of my reports is my feedback level to improve my process of strategy deployment and systems planning, again from the top. So basically, the FM envisions its future by linking its purpose to that of the organization's strategy. It develops goals, objectives, and action plans that takes you to that future. And that's why the FM cannot have a vision, which is its future, without fully understanding the vision, which is the future of the organization. The FM's job is to be able to understand what the gap is between where the organization is now and where the organization is going to be in the next 5 years, 3 years, and so on and so forth. And the FM also be able to use that interpretation of data and analyze to find out where the FM is now. How are you meeting the organization's needs now? How will you meet the organization's needs in the future if the organization is moving in that direction? If you're not already doing this, what you're basically doing is you're becoming a bottleneck, you're becoming a stumbling block to the organization achieving its goals. And that's what you don't want to be. Whether you work in a hospital, an airport, a mall, a school, a factory, you know, a cemetery, a port, anywhere you work, a church, a mosque, a shrine, or whatever, you must be deeply immersed in what the organization is trying to achieve. You must fully understand the business of that organization. That is the only basis for which you can create long-term plans to help the organization get to where it wants to get to. And if you don't have long-term plans that enables the organization to strategically succeed, you are failing every day. Every action you are taking is a failure. No matter how smart you are, no matter how educated you are, no matter how much of the FM body of knowledge you have, if you don't have this one holy grail ability to deeply understand the organization and align your plans, both strategic, tactical, and operational, to that of the organization's strategic goals or objectives, you are failing every day. So how do you do this? Understand the organization's vision, values, goals, financial performance. Understand if the organization is making progress in various facets of its existence, or is retrogressing, or is stagnant. You need to know. You cannot bury your head in the sand like an ostrich and say, people in the core business, they are the ones that know that. Me, I'm FM, I am not supposed to know that. That is the worst thing you can do to yourself and your career as a facility manager. Because if you fully understand, you can create certain analysis of your own. If you want to talk about SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, for example, it sounds like what the core business would do. The marketing team can do that. The IT team can do that. The production team can do that. They are the ones at the core of understanding the organization. You as a facility manager should be able to create your own analysis. Be able to understand the organization's analysis of its situation. Because all of the things that the organization is going to be engaging on and doing into the future would depend on their understanding of their current situation and the gap between where they are and where they want to be. And you as an FM cannot be an outsider to that operation or to that system. You must be fully knowledgeable about it. And then develop plans that meet the long-range needs of the organization. You review these plans annually and you update them periodically. So basically what you are doing with planning is you are mirroring the organization's strategic objectives, their vision, mission, goal, and you are saying, I will do A to match this one. I will do B to support this. I will do C to add value to that. That's basically how you're going to be going about your plans. So every time you lay out your plan as an FM, there's that obvious link to something high up that the organization is trying to achieve. And then once you have your plans in place, you begin to implement them. So what are the basics of understanding? The key thing you first need to understand is what facilities does the organization even have? What are the assets that it has with which it is currently working to achieve its results of today? And it hopes to get to where it is going. If you don't already have in-depth analysis of the existing facilities, how can you create a vision and establish a gap analysis of where the organization will be going and how your facilities will need to grow or change or improve to support it? So everything from the square meters of every space, the type of building that has been built in the space, the kind of assets that are installed there, the kind of people that use those facilities, what are expectations, everything is part of understanding. Then you must understand the organization's business plan. Who are its key customers? Who are those paying? Who does the organization pay money to? Who are its key input sources? What are the macroeconomic factors? Currency, inflation, interest rate that affects the organization. Should all this be a concern of the facility manager? What we are teaching you today is that it should be your primary concern. Because if it is not, you will keep coming up to act in ways that will make you divergent with the focus of management at every given point in time. And then you must focus on the business units. When a business unit like HRO comes around and say, we are going to hire so and so number of people next month, and I hear the FM say things like, oh, no, you didn't give us enough notice. We can't provide spaces for them to sit down. We can't even optimize our spaces, let alone expand our spaces. Why would you be telling us late? I laugh. It means that that FM has been sleeping while the organization was growing to the point where it now needs more people. You have been completely, I don't know how to put it, blinded to your environment to the extent that whether the organization is progressing or retrogressing, you are not even aware. I also hear FM tell me things like, oh, well, the HR department or the finance department, they won't tell us anything. They always like surprising us, giving us instructions at the last minute. I said, no. If you have been doing strategic planning, you'd have had times in the past when you went to them to say, I am making some plans for you. Are there things you want to achieve that you want me to incorporate into my plans? Nobody will push you back with such information. But don't come empty-handed. You should come with some sense of analysis. If you come in to say, I've been looking at our employment trends in the last 5 years, and it looks like 5 years ago, we were just 30 people. Now we're about 200 people, and it has gone like this every year. If I use the trend of our employment and increase in staff strength and the way revenue is coming to this business, there's a high likelihood that we're going to grow at this rate. Mr. HRO manager, do you support this? Are there other things that you know that I might use for my projection, for my space planning, and my services planning? You bring that to the table. They see that you have made some efforts to create a footfall tracking. If the FM is not even having a mechanism for counting visitors to the mall, for example, or visitors to its office complex to make sense of the data, what kind of strategy can it come up with? So it's not just for the HR and the senior management to make predictions of future headcount. You as an FM should be able to make predictions of future headcounts. Predictions about space utilization, maintenance requirement, capital investments, operating costs into the next 3 to 5 years. Because you fully understand, you know what is happening now. And then you can now create plans. Simulate possible operating conditions. What are the likely changes, internal and external, that can affect our business? And as such, the FM will need to respond to. That's what scenario planning is about. You simulate it. It's a forecast, but the forecast does not need to be blindsided. It has to be based on certain inferences from the data you have gathered in the past. And then, of course, there are other types of planning tools. Systematic layout planning includes things like flowcharts, where you present your operation in step-by-step, processes. Or you develop an ISO standard where you have quality procedures put in place. You can define how activities will be implemented in your organization. Who will do them? create rosters, create schedules, create activity plans. Relationships between organizations, between departments. Square footage requirements. Each department is growing at different rates. You can understand how the organization as a whole is growing, but you also need to understand how each unit within the organization is growing, because you need to provide certain types of spaces for certain types of business functions within the organization. And then when they are going to be need to move into a new building, you should be able to use that understanding to create block plan layout where you put departments to interface with each other, interface with the public in such a way that there is not too much running up and down within the organization. People can be packaged close to where they can function well and they can relate and communicate well. Your SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Categorized as internal versus external. The internal positives are your strengths. The internal negatives are your weaknesses. The external positives are your opportunities, and the external negatives are your threats. When did it become the FM's business to notice another school building a campus beside our school? Should it be the FM's business? Yes, that's what this class is teaching. How is that new school being built how is it going to affect our business as a school? How many of our students are going to likely move to the new school? How will that affect our cash flow and our project deployment? What should our school do to attract more students and to hold on to its most loyal students? A lot of things will come into play, but the FM should understand when there are opportunities and when there are threats, because management typically or usually will respond to these things, and in their response will begin to approve or deny your proposals. And you, because you have not taken time to see what is happening within the organization and what's happening outside the organization, may not be aware of why they are taking those decisions. Because if you are aware, you probably won't even push for those decisions in the first place that they are telling you no to. FM must be able to come up with what we call a gap analysis. At the planning stage, you are creating a gap analysis. I have what we are doing, how we are meeting our needs today. I spent time understanding it. But I also know our long-term vision. I've spent time creating my own vision as an FM to align with that of the organization. Now I can see clearly what must be achieved for me as an FM to strategically enable the organization to arrive at its destination. So I look at all our sites. I take a look at the zoning, the cost, labor, competition, and all factors critical for success across all my facilities. I do financial risk analysis to focus on finding maximum value. It's the FM that should actually be making moves like, should we transfer so and so workers from this building to that building so that we can save costs? Or should we put in place certain bus service to move workers from highbrow area into rural areas to work so that we can have cheaper real estate? The FM should be doing all this kind of analysis as part of your planning. And then every time you come up with recommendations, there should be alternatives. And I always say my rule of thumb is what? 3. Never ever solve a problem without considering 3 options or 3 possible solutions. That's my rule of thumb. Try to apply it. And then develop process for marketing and recommending your recommended strategic plan. Management will not automatically accept your plan because it makes sense. No. You need to actually put some effort into selling the ideas you have put in your plan, convincing management that this plan is the best because it fully aligns with your interpretation of management's expectation or customer expectation that drives management planning and strategic alignment. And then once the planning is done, you get to apply for funds so that you can implement all of the things that you have planned. And what are the outputs from strategic facility planning? Your strategic facility plan, your facility master plan, and your annual facility plans. Let me break these three down. The way they are listed is the way they appear on the hierarchy. Your strategic facility plan is what we also call your portfolio plan. There are high-level decisions you've taken in advance that will affect every location that you set up your facility. For example, things that have to do with sustainability metrics, things that have to do with the look and feel of what a typical workplace should look like for your organization, things that have to do with what kind of cost benchmarks should be in place when selecting and fitting out a site for your organization. All of these are taken at the strategic facility plan level, and they would affect every site in your portfolio. The facility master plan, on the other hand, is a plan, a strategic plan for one site, for one location. You can call it a campus plan. You can call it a site plan. You can call it a location plan. It's a long-term strategic planning about how a particular site that you manage is going to move from where it is to where it should be. So whether you are building in phases and moving into the facilities, or you plan some future additional facilities on that same campus, for example, all of that information will be in the master plan. The master plan must be fully obedient to the strategic facility plan. Every time you are doing your master planning, from the way you design your pathways for walking, not to walk on the lawn, or the way you put certain pools here and there, or the way you handle your sewage in that site, or the way you handle your energy consumption, and so on and so forth, must be subservient to high-level decisions that have already been made at the strategic facility plan level. The specifics of how each site will be adapted to the strategic facility plan is what we are doing in master plan. So a master plan for a high rise in VI or Ikoyi can meet the same requirements, energy, for example, energy consumption and energy metrics, for example, as a site in Songwater that is sprawling campus of 5 hectares with 20 buildings. They can meet the same energy benchmarks. They can meet the same capital allocation or capital expenditure benchmarks. They are only being implemented differently. For example, it is possible not to find a way to have cooling in a high-rise tower without mechanical cooling, without mechanical ventilation or air conditioning. But I can decide to achieve all that cooling requirements without using a single air conditioning in Songwater if I use trees and shades and fans to ventilate that facility. They will be equally comfortable. They will meet the same sustainability targets. And yet, here, I'm dealing with air conditioning, chiller systems, in fact. In the other one, I just have funds that need to be cleaned once in a while, and that's all. So 2 master plans for 2 sites, showing exactly how each site is going to evolve over time, but both of them responding and answering to your strategic facility plan, such that by the time you get to the annual facility plan, which is often simplified to your annual budget, your budget for the year is your tactical plan, is your plan for everything you intend to do. If they don't have a strategic plan, a master plan, a strategic facility plan to draw their authority from, you will struggle. Even in the economy, the running of a government, the president does not go to the National Assembly with next year's budget unless he has first developed the medium-term economic framework. We have the development plans, which are 25-year plans that has all of those fantastic things of the next 60 years in there. They've been developing development plans from the 40s, 50s to date. So when you start hearing things like the Fort Mainland Bridge, you think it was conceived in a few years ago. It's a lie. It's part of a high-level, long-term development plans. All these trains you're seeing across Lagos, for example, they did not just wake up and say, let's put a train here. These trains have been part of a metro system designed in the 70s and 80s. That's a development plan. That's a long-term strategic plan for the city. Now, coming down from that, you have the medium-term economic framework. That's what the president will come with. It's a 3-year plan that says, from development plans, we have created this strategy that in the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to behave like this and do that and that project. Once the National Assembly reviews that and approves the medium-term economic framework, the president can now come with next year's budget. Next year's budget will now have all the capital expenditure, even the recurrent expenditure, drawing from pre-approved plans in that MTEF, which is the strategic planning we're talking about. So when you hear of a coastal road running from Calabar to Lagos, for example, that coastal road is in the budget for this year. But the part of it that is in the budget for this year is not actual construction. It's right of way, 60 billion to a clear right of way. That's the project for this year. They probably did some surveys last year. They probably did some designs 2 or 3 years ago. And then next year, they probably will say, okay, fine, let's take phase 1 in a phase 1 to 8 phase actual construction. And then every year, they will pick and drop into the budget. That's exactly how strategic planning. So you can see why, as facility managers, you will be making mistakes every year when your budget does not have anything it's anchored on. You're drifting. And then there's really no way to link your last year's budget with the previous years and this year and next year. You're basically just darting in all directions because there's no long-term plan. So just looking at this list of items that can be found in the strategic facility plan versus the items that can be found in the facility master plan will help to drive home what I've been trying to explain in this class. Let me start with the master plan. Zoning. Can this site take a commercial building? If it can it take a filling station, a mall, or whatever we're trying to build? You must respond to zoning. Many people had the best of properties on the Lekki axis, and they all opened up into the road until the government came and said, you know what, all of you will have to find gates on the other side, except we have enough space to give you a slip road where you can use on the, because you cannot open into a highway, right? And for some, their properties no longer became that attractive the way it was when it was opening right into the highway. So a lot of these things have to do with government plans and how it affects your site. In my church here in Yaba, there's a plan to put a certain bridge, a railway, and bridge the road at Jibo bus stop. And they've come to mark the fence on the building to say at certain time, we have to bring the building, cut the building back. Not that it wasn't approved before, but we have to cut it back to accommodate that particular project. Now, the expectation is that whoever was in charge of approving the building in the first place should have factored in that that particular development was going to come and advised then that the designers give enough setback so that you don't have to cut part of your building down. But that's what's happening everywhere. And then you have your space standard, for example, how many square meters for each person, what kind of function is performed by each person that will sit in this building, how many floors are we going to have, how are we going to plan people interacting and workflows in this place, how are we going to do the engineering assessment. This is things like, is it a swamp? What does the soil say? Can it hold a building without what do you call it, a pile, or can it stay on the raft foundation? Basically, you are doing your site planning. If you are doing a high rise, you are talking about block and feet and stacking plans. It's just talking about how you're going to allocate different floors to different departments. But the strategic facility plan, look at what it contains. A statement of facility objectives. If I create my statement of facility objectives, no matter where I build or rent or buy, those objectives must be met for that facility to meet the requirements of my organization. Risk analysis of options, sustainability analysis, sources and uses of funds. If we have this much as an organization, then we can build that much. If we have this much, we can build. Those are the kind of decisions that are taken at the strategic facility plan level. If you do this well, you will do the master plan well. That's basically what this is about. And then once you have a strategic plan in place, you implement it using tactical plans, which is you're either going to provide a new space or a new service or a reconfigured space or an altered service. That's basically what the output of strategic facility planning is.
I think it's okay.
Yes, it's much better now. It was shaky before.
Yeah,
it's much better now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I got that feedback. All right, thanks. Okay, so let's continue. For your typical facility, it will go through the planning, the design, the construction, the testing, commissioning, handover, and facility management stages. And what we are trying to advocate in strategic facility planning is that facility managers should not only be involved in facilities at the facility management stage after handover. You should actually be involved in the facility throughout the life cycle of the facility. So I'm going to first, take a run through what happens at each stage of the facility development, and then I will now move to what the FM's role should be in each stage. So let's start with planning. Planning is the time when the decision to create a facility, buy, build, construct, renovate, whatever, in response to a need of the organization, a problem that needs to be solved, an opportunity that needs to be taken advantage of. Now, the planners are typically the owner. And in many cases, if the facility managers of the owner are strategic enough, they will have that discussion. And what comes out of the planning stage is what we typically will call the brief. A brief is what describes the vision, the goals, the facility objectives, in fact, everything that we talked about in the strategic facility plan would have been figured out during the planning stage. So that when designers come, they are coming to work on the master plan, the facility master plan, interpreting the brief, the goals and objectives, the long-term plans for that facility from the owner and the FM team, and develop that into a real situation, still of course on paper and on digitally. And then what comes out of the design stage, what comes into the design stage is the brief. And then what comes out of it are sets of designs, architectural, structural, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and so on and so forth. Those sets of designs become a key input into construction. But before those designs can become construction, there will have to be a bill of quantities that translates those designs into actual items that will need to be bought and assembled, the workmanship and everything that goes into that. That's what the bill of quantities carry. And then contracting. So the output from the design stage is a set of design drawings, the bill of quantities for the work that needs to be done, and a set of contracts. Now, that goes into construction. During construction, there are workshop drawings produced from the design, basically to blow out and explain how construction will be performed. There are project plans that breaks down how the task will be executed. And then there are construction drawings, not just construction details, but construction drawings, which in a way are cataloging what is being built. At the end of construction, you get an as-built bill of quantities, different from the design bill of quantities. You get an as-built set of drawings, different from the design drawing, because these will reflect what was actually constructed. And then you have all kinds of documentation coming out of it. For example, all the permits and licenses for the various facility assets and equipment will be delivered. All the warranty for all the assets and equipment will be provided. All of the data that has to do with construction teams and contractors and who they are, what they did, will be developed and put together at this point. And then the building goes into the testing phase. What happens at the testing phase? Every building component or equipment has a set of functional operating parameters, which means they will be subject to this level of rigor and stress, and they will respond, in this way. Take your generators, for example. If you put on a 500 kVA generator and it's giving out 350 kilowatts of power at a particular time, it should operate, it should be able to give out that power and not go beyond that temperature and not go beyond that, so on and so forth. So you have those parameters that are your facility must stay between the upper and lower specification limits of everything, both civil, architectural, plumbing, mechanical, every system, electrical system you have in the building. Your test is similar to what you do when you do medical tests. The parameter is stated on the documents. the normal range expected for this design is stated, and then what it is tested to produce when it was run is indicated. And then there's an interpretation of that reading. So if it's temperature and it's a 40 degrees to 90 degrees, for example, range, and it reads 60 or 65, then I'll say it is within the normal range of its operation, which means this has passed testing. It tested okay, they say. But testing is not commissioning, and listen very carefully. Testing is not commissioning. Something can test okay, which means it works nominally, but fails commissioning, which means it is not adequate for its design load.
See, that's why I've been.
For example, if you have air conditioning provided for a church hall, all the air conditions work, they cool very well when you are just 5 people in that room, or when you are 100 people and you are not dancing aggressively. But if that hall was designed to accommodate people who dance vigorously, that air conditioning would have failed commissioning if they all start sweating and start feeling hot because the AC is not adequate to meet the function of that space. So testing is to check for its ability to work, which I call functionality tests. But commissioning is ability to meet the design requirements, which is adequacy test. So commissioning is not inauguration, it's not launching, it's not cutting a ribbon. It's actually a process of loading your facility and documenting how the facility holds out to the loading that was designed for it. That is commissioning. Then the facility goes to handover. What happens in handover? I've seen all kinds of handovers. The most common ones are the handshake and a photograph, or the sending of a bunch of keys, whether tagged or untagged, labeled or unlabeled. Handover is documentation, not the physical building, not a set of keys. Documentation. All of those documentation we have talked about in the construction stage, all the output from the testing stage, which is the testing results, all the output from the commissioning stage, which is the commissioning reports, all from what is handed over to the facility manager at the handover stage. So you can show me around the building 100 times and show me that everything works. If you did not document everything you are showing me so that I can have them on paper, you have only delivered 50% of your work as a construction team. You have not handed over that property to me. Documentation is everything in handover. And then the FM comes on board, develops processes, systems for managing the facility, and then you run it through its useful life. And what happens? You get to a point where you decide this particular facility has lived through its useful life, and then you start planning again. Should we overhaul it? Should we scrap it and get a new one? As our needs change altogether, that we don't even need this kind of facility anymore, should we just sell it and move to the cloud, like we say, and become virtual in everything we do, and so on and so forth? The planning starts again. You go that cycle. That is a development cycle for your facilities. So what does the FM do, basically? Because if you take the facility as something that is developed through planning, design, construction, testing, commissioning, and handover to facility management, you probably think facility management should happen at the last stage when everybody has finished doing their own bit. But then that is disaster lurking in the corners. So we're talking about what the FM needs to do at every stage, because while you have a driver or the owner of every phase of this development, the FM has an input at every phase. The driver of the planning stage is the planner, the owner, and his team. Construction team needs to have an input. Why? Because they need to know that something is buildable. And then the FM team needs to have an input. What input? They understand the customers, the building users. They have experience with people that will be coming in. So they contribute information from degradation curves that they've understood from the past, from customer behaviors and how it affects the building, from malfunctions over time for different building materials and building methods, such that those inputs are fed into the plans before the brief is developed. Even the size and capacity for different type of customers and for different type of functions within the facility, the FM has a role to play in deciding that. During design, the FM's role is as simple as checking to be sure that statutory compliance are met. You can't design and not provide certain facilities, certain welfare facilities. Health and safety is complied with. Accessibility for maintenance and other maintainability factors are complied with. Spaces for utility, spaces for services, including service teams, are provided. The FM is supposed to make sure that sustainability objectives are met during design, as well as commercial and strategic goals of the owner. These things are supposed to be the FM's key role during design, so that none of the owner's requirements or objectives are left behind. Neither are any of the regulatory compliance issues ignored by design team. Neither will we end up having difficulty in maintenance because maintainability was not considered. How do you develop a mall? Tell people to operate the mall 24 hours, workers going shift in, shift out. And then you rented out all the spaces. There's no space to provide showers, no space to provide lockers for the workers, no place to provide lounges for them to change shift and work those many hours. Or you lock a high-rise building and then security guards outside who are going to be outside from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. tomorrow before the building is opened again, does not have access to toilets because the building has been locked. Or you provide just one toilet inside one small room for 12 of them or 15 of them guarding that space. You're going to meet a lot of mess. It is the FM's job to ensure that maintainability, sustainability, health and safety compliance, and all the things that will lead to user convenience and comfort are built into the design. Nothing is forgotten. During construction, the FM's input is very simple as well. Make sure that one, all that has been designed, all the intentions and goals are not dropped for convenience of construction, because this is the reality of construction. The objectives of those who are constructing, that project team, does not have operational readiness, does not have operability in that objective. Build it quickly, time, schedule, constraints, build it cheaply, as quickly as possible, make it profitable, look you spend less money, and build it with a certain scope in mind. The FM job during construction also includes documenting all variation, controlling and documenting variation. If a variation is coming up during construction and you do not think of all the other implications from that variation, you may make a variation that would derail completely from the main objective of that facility. And it happens all the time. So the FM job to make sure that variation and change control is in place and documented. so that we know how we got from where we wanted to where we are during construction. During testing, the FM needs to have what we call the baseline data. Baseline data of what was installed. What are their states? And this includes all the snag lists that we observed. This includes all the remediation of those snag lists and the history behind them, because some things will come back to haunt you later if you did not document them properly now, so you can have a history of them. You are not aware of them, you're not there during construction and testing, I'm sorry, things will be dropped on you and you will make more mistakes. And then you have, during construction, commissioning rather, the FM's job is to start to match what has been done with what was intended. Are the users getting the value? Are the owners getting the value? Are we meeting our compliance requirements? That's what commissioning documents. And that is why, for most facilities, commissioning cannot be completed at the onset. You can do testing to completion, but commissioning may be a lifelong engagement. That's why in facility management, we talk about continuous commissioning, which means on a regular basis, as the facility is being loaded, you are tracking the adequacy. You are recording and documenting issues like slip and falls in use of stairwells. You are documenting issues like weights, dead loads and live loads as they impact the building through footfalls. Let's assume you have a cinema that was designed for 1,000 people, and then you are beginning to observe an overcrowding. People are beginning to optimize seats, and 2,000, 3,000 people are beginning to come in there. And then you need to begin to start doing structural tests, MEP tests, just to be sure that the building can still carry this extra load that is coming on it. Commissioning can be continuous. We also have what we call retro commissioning that takes place every now and then, where you come back again to do some renovation, some retrofits, and then after you've done those retrofits and renovation, you now say, let's establish the gap between the facility, what's intended, and what it's actually providing, now that we have touched it up again. So the FM is involved at that stage. And then at handover, the FM's job is to ensure that the documents you are receiving, all of those asset register, all of those license and permits and documentation of as-built drawings and the rest, they meet the standards for which you will be able to manage the facility. So documentation, all the, what do you call it, the warranties must be documented and handed over. And then you start your facility management. See how important this process is for the facility manager to be involved. Okay, and so all of this I've described is what we call the operational readiness program, where you begin from the onset to plan how operational readiness will be built in. And operational readiness is a seamless transfer of your facility from construction to operations and maintenance. It includes an operation and maintenance program, a testing and commissioning program, and a handover program. These are just high-level, what I call process documents that should be developed as part of the property development cycle, so that as you are getting from stage to stage, you are incrementally adding up the documents that you will use for operations and maintenance. And if this is properly done, you will have huge savings, because your original design and construction costs will typically be 10% of the life cycle cost of your assets. So you build for 1 billion or 10 billion, multiply it by 10, and you know the real life cycle cost. 28% will be used for components replacement, replace roof, retile, change windows over maybe 100 years or 60 years or 55 years. And 62% will be spent on operations and maintenance, your energy, the staffing costs, the cleaning, All of those things that you need to ensure that you are able to run and use the facility to generate the value for which it was designed or produced. And so, because you have focused on operational readiness, you will solve problems that would have cost you money out of that 62%. You know, you can save from the 10% and end up spending that money in the 62% at, you know, in multiple folds. That's what operational readiness tries to do for you. There's this list of documentation that each of these three process documents or process manuals should contain. What I try to do is, because this is not happening anywhere, it's not happening anywhere, I'll normally recommend that you simplify it to a list of less than 10 items. 10 items. From the operations and maintenance program, if you can get operating manuals. You know, the operating manuals are not the manuals that come with equipment like elevator manual, pump manual, and the rest. Not just that, those are just one chapter in the overall manual. The manual should include how it was arranged together, you know, what was put, the specification of each equipment or component that made up the system, how it should be maintained, should be detailed, if there's any precaution or caution that needs to be observed during its maintenance and operations. All of those things go into the operations manual. So when you get an operations manual, it tells you what you have, what it's made of. It tells you how to manage it, okay? And then it tells you how to maintain it. So the management is the operations, how to use it from day to day. And then the maintenance is how to make sure that you take certain steps to prevent it from breaking down. So that's my number one. So if I have the operating manuals, I probably will not be fighting the construction team to create for me the maintenance schedule. I'll do the maintenance schedule from there. Okay, I'll do it myself. But then they must give me at least a spare parts list. For every asset, there must be some kind of list of items that will be wearing and tearing that I need to be aware of. In the last class, there was an FM who didn't know a certain thing was going to wear and tear in an equipment he was managing. And I said, it is a fatal flaw. You need to have parts lists in every asset that you're going to manage or take over. So I picked out 2 or 3 from that. Now let me go to the testing and commissioning program. You must have as-built drawings. As-built drawings are not a modification of design drawings. It's not to change the title block of your design drawing to call them as-built drawings. It is actually measuring to produce the drawings of what's on ground. When design and construction teams refuse to do as-built drawings for me, I don't worry. I accept the design drawings in their native formats, soft copy, and then I do my verification and measurement and do the adjustment of what I met. That becomes a project that the FM can supervise using consultants. In the first place, construction teams, construction contracts hardly carry a line item for production of as-built drawings. So when we start, fuzzing over giving us as-built drawings and as-built bits of quantities, we make the mistake of thinking they have been paid for it. You need to be actually sure that a line item was specified in the contract that says contractor will produce as-built drawing. Otherwise, the consultants are supposed to come back, measure what's been built, draw it, and make sure that it fits the purpose of your maintenance and operation. So as-built drawing, and then for the bills of quantities, make sure it's also the as-built bills of quantities. Every time a building material has changed or a work method has changed, the bill of quantity is no longer what is being built. So you must get as-built bill of quantities. It's important to ask for the snag lists so that all the issues that you are going to encounter in the future, if they were already, perceived or seen during the construction stage, you'll be more prepared than having surprises. Okay? Then I'll add to that the vendor details, people who build. I need to be able to reach out to them to ask questions if I want to. And then add to that warranties and guarantees. There are certain terms that are written into your warranties that if you are not familiar with the warranty documentation, you will be the one to use your own hands to void your warranty. Many don't even know they have warranty for some things. So the slightest fault they find, they go straight to fix. Okay, so that's very important. And then all your legal documentation, permits for borehole, for elevator, for diesel tank, C of O documentation, of course, those are with the owners, but all of the legal documentations that helps to, that used to get all the permits and approvals to do the different things in your facility while they are constructing, they need to hand them over. Because some regulatory agencies will come back years later and demand for them. You cannot tell them you are not the one that built it. Under your handover documentation, of course, you must ensure that you have your training record as core. Training record is very key. Don't assume that you know how to operate it. Even if they give you an operations and maintenance manual, the people who constructed it need to provide the first level of training to the operations team. And that training must be documented. The contents, who was part of it, how were they tested for understanding. Very important. And then results of testing. All that testing we're talking about, the results need to be documented as part of the handover program. Okay, so let's hear from Alsam. Alsam, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Paul. As usual, a very wonderful one. So again, I'll ask, like all you've explained in terms of strategic facility planning, is for those that are working in an organization, whereby the organization has its own objective and they begin to align. What about if you want to go into facility business practice, as you want to have your own company? How do you go about all of this?
The organization that I've been talking about is what we call the demand organization.
Okay, demand.
A demand organization. So if you are working for an FM company, the strategy of the demand organization is what you apply all of this planning to.
Okay.
Okay, so everything here is about the end user organization, not your FM company. Your FM company strategy can be different. You can talk about that on another day, right?
Okay.
But everything here is about the organization that you are serving. Okay. So if I was working for an FM company and I've been assigned to go and work for a bank, for example, I would get so involved in banking to the extent that it will look as if I am a banker now. That's the only way I can understand where the bank is trying to arrive at, where it's going to, how I can get there, and how I can contribute to this. Because I need to position myself as a strategic enabler of the success of that demand organization. And I can't do that without fully understanding that organization. Okay. So when an FM comes and says, oh, well, I was managing the airport before, they sent me to come and manage this, your mall. This is what we used to do at the airport. I just laugh. They're confused. Once you leave the airport and you come to the mall, you change your mindset completely. You spend time understanding the strategy of the mall and develop plans that will be specifically aligned to the objective of the mall. Leave airport facility management. You have moved on from there. The day you go back to the airport again, you have to drop the hat of the mall and wear the hat of what? The airport. That's exactly how FM works. So that's why you see some FMs that will work for many years in a hospital, and you take them from there to go and start working in a factory, for example, and they will virtually be confused. They don't know how to switch mode because they're not doing strategic planning. Okay?
Okay. So I don't know, you said commissioning is adequacy.
Yes, checking for adequacy.
Testing. Testing is testing for what?
Testing is for functionality.
Functionality. Okay, thank you. That would be all. Thank you so much.
All right. Temi, you haven't said anything in this class. Yes, it's you. Temi. Temi, you've not said anything in this class. You have a question. You are muted. Think of something to say. You have to say something today. Who else has not said anything in this class since we started?
Say something.
Aha. Anthony, yes, you are one of. Oh no, Anthony, you have spoken before, but you'll speak again today. Anthony, I think we found a way to get your raising hand function. If you click on the more, if you click on more, you know, when you have all of those buttons in your screen, you see one that is more. If you click on more, I'm sure you will see the raising hand
Raise
function
hand.
there, if it is hidden. So use it all the time, yeah? All right,
All right.
let's hear from Olayemi first, and then I'll come to Anthony, and then I want to make sure Temi talks today in this class.
Yeah, well done, sir. Today's lecture is very revealing, and
Exactly.
I learned a lot from it. So I think this lecture is not something that can just be it is something that we need, especially to prefer to often, for us to be guided, because it's not really possible to grab everything on the go. So I don't know if there's any. I think I sent you a chat requesting if it is possible to have a recorded version, so that we can, a recorded of this training.
Yes.
So that if it is possible for us to refer to it and then glean some, strategy on how to go about this.
Okay.
Because actually, I think I need this.
Yes.
This particular. So, and then also, is it possible for us to have maybe an example of this strategic plan, a copy of it, if it is possible, anything drafted that can
I will ask you to just Google it up. There are so many from Americas and Europe. You won't find any in Nigeria. Nobody's doing it here.
Okay. Okay. So those are my questions. So
for the first one, the videos, you will have access to the previous versions of it, like last class or last two classes, right? Because those ones have been cleaned up through production. But the current class, you know, once a class is recorded, it's very heavy. And the file is probably 4 gigs, 5 gigs. We can't even start transferring that. Once in a while, if somebody says, oh, I'm coming to the office and I have a pen drive, I want to pick up a video, then yes, but we have a policy that access to the video is only provided for students who are not owing any amount, any part of their fees, right? So if there's a balance left and you want to access the videos, just pay it up and then you can have it. But what we do is we provide video access from like the 10th, 15th class. So from the 10th, 15th class, we will start sorting through those who have finished paying and those who have balances, and just to be sure that we give everybody the right access to the videos. That's a policy of the organization that I can't do anything about. Okay, so I'm sure the videos will be available for the previous sets in a drive. So usually you'll be given a link to access that drive once that time comes, and the training team will take care of this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Anthony.
Yes. Yeah. Good evening, sir, and good evening all. Yes, I must really just going by what the last speaker have just said. This training to this class so revealing and interesting. One of the questions I want to ask was he asked concerning the video and which you have answered.
Okay.
And the second one is on the SWOT analysis,
yes,
and the SWOT analysis. Because the example you gave, because all this while I've been hearing big companies, but the example you gave on this was just where I work, because I work in a school. I work in a school. But where I'm not too clear about, what is creating a gap analysis. So what gap is to be created, or is the function of FM to bridge the gap, or so
yes.
I wasn't too
so
clear
the
about that.
gap analysis really is your interpretation of your understanding of your current situation and where you want to be. Let's take, for example, the school is hoping to have a dormitory that has not been built yet. They want to have a dormitory to accommodate 500 students in the next 5 years, right?
Yes.
Right now, there's no dormitory. That's a gap, isn't it?
Of course.
0 to 5 years, design, plan, design, develop, and build, and make sure a dormitory is fully functional, right? So if you have that as a gap, no dormitory now, dormitory in 5 years, you start asking yourself, what can we do to make sure that we have a dormitory that is functional in 5 years? Okay, we have to go through planning. How many students do we want to have in it? What kind of arrangement are we going to have to operate it? Are they going to be masters, hostel masters who are going to live in there? How is the apartment going to be planned different from that of the students? Are there going to be cooks or caterers who are going to be feeding them? How are their own apartments going to be planned different from that of the students? How is the flow between the dormitory areas and the main school areas going to be separated, and so on and so forth? You start thinking of many things. And then you start saying, okay, if this is going to cost us 70 million, 90 million, for example, can we build it at once? Or should we do one block first or do one floor first? And then, you know, all of those planning is taking place because you have established a gap. Let's assume the school says, you know what, in the next 3 years, we want to make sure all students in this school have a laptop or a tablet to assess lessons and course materials and content, right? And you're thinking, the kind of internet we have right now with this small modem will not work for that kind of school system. What kind of other internet options can we start thinking of right now, right? Because the end goal is to have everybody digitally learning. You now know what the gaps are between your current situation. If in your current situation, there's already a fiber optic cable passing through the front of your street, which means in your current situation, you now know that there's bandwidth outside here for fiber optic. So I mean, that's even solved. I just need to call the guys and then they will give me my own connection when I want to hook up to higher bandwidth. Those are the kind of things we're talking about. Understand your current situation, understand where you are going, and begin to itemize what needs to be done to take you from where you are to where you are going.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Okay. Let's hear from Ibukun.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you very much. I'm glad some of my colleagues have already talked about the video. I'm also interested in it. Yeah. Okay, so the other, let me take them one by one. The strategic facility plan, I just want to know, is for what duration? Because we have the annual facility plan, that's like a year, I believe.
Yes,
for the
2 to 5 years. 2 to 5 years.
2 to 5 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Now that does not stop you from doing what we call the capital assets planning, capital asset replacement plan that could be 25 years. You know, when I was doing my explanation, I tried to illustrate with national planning, where you have a development plan, which is up to 25 years. You have the medium-term economic framework, which is 3 to 5 years, and then you have the annual plan, which is the budget, right? So the FM can operate that same way. Your annual plan is your budget, both your CAPEX budget and your OPEX budget, which is operations and capital budgets, right? And then the equivalent of your medium-term economic framework now is now what we call the strategic facility plan, 2 to 5 years, right? And then the capital asset replacement plan, which takes care of how you're going to replace the roof, the boreholes, the generators in when they are past their useful life, and so on and so forth, becomes your development plan. Okay.
Okay. Wow, that's quite that's quite a lot.
It's
okay.
good. It's good to have your mind open enough to see far ahead enough, because then you don't bring any surprises to management. They already are flowing with you on how things are happening. So if this year you are replacing all the chairs in the conference room, it doesn't come as a shock. It's been in the plan. They've approved it.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So that capital asset replacement plan, that one comes, is still under strategic.
Yes, it's super strategic.
Then, okay, let me say a little, I still want to clarify. Okay, talking about the asset life cycle cost. There's a slide there, asset life cycle. Yes, I just want to get the difference between the capital renewal cost and operation and maintenance cost.
Capital renewal. Okay, CAPEX are the expenses you make for things that are not within a 1 year life cycle. Okay, so if I'm going to replace diesel that is running down, that's OPEX, operations cost. But if I'm going to replace the generator that's going to run for 5 years, that's a capital asset. I cannot mix those budgets together. Okay. They have to be separate.
Okay. So for something like diesel, that comes under O&M.
Oh, yes, O&M costs, yes.
All right, sir. Then talking about this strategic facility plan as it applies to some of the documents FM is supposed to have, and even our project. I scanned through, so I believe you should follow on that budgeting and plan.
Your strategic planning. Let's see, you don't actually have a project for that, so I'll probably just do a revision on the budgeting projects to include your capital asset replacement plan. Yes, I'll review that. We don't have any project out of the 6 projects that takes care of strategic planning, so maybe we'll just do a small amendment to our budget plan to put some strategy into it. I'll have to take out time to work on that. That's a good idea.
Okay, so will it still come with it, or that will be not necessary for now for this class or for this set?
Let me look at my work schedule and see if I can fit it in before your class ends.
Okay. All right, sir. So okay. Also, I just want to talking about some analysis that we can use. You talk about SWOT, then you talk about scan. I just want to get the meaning of scan.
Scan is usually that external aspect of your SWOT, where you are looking at external things like opportunities and threats. Scan is usually when you look out to say what's affecting us, right? So you're basically looking at threats and you're looking at opportunities, both positive and negative of the external.
Okay. All right. So that's the follow on that SWOT then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Scan is an aspect of SWOT.
Then I guess one can still use other techniques. Okay, just like you said, like the PEST tool and some other ones that have come across too.
Oh yes, sure. The whole idea is learn to use tools and documents to show that you understand, to show that you can plan, to show that you can see ahead enough. For some people, they don't call it all of these tools, for example. They'll use a mind map, for example. They'll use a root cause analysis. There are so many tools you can bring in to just, establish difference between now and future, between now and future, so that you can begin to take steps towards getting to the future, not the future arriving to meet you.
Okay. All right, sir. I think my last question will be talking about some of the things you have shared with us and my own experience, especially where I work. Sometimes I'm in a situation whereby some of our vendors and let me say contractors, major contractors, they are not they are from like the directors, the major the key stakeholders now, where I work, and even some of the jobs are being handled by like we call them sister companies, so to speak, which are basically owned by the directors. So my issue is this: like when you're talking about the operational readiness program, having to ask for as-built drawings, the vendors details, and a few other things that you might need to as FM, talking about the asset life cycle and all of that. But you don't get the response that you want from the contractors that you want to, and they somehow they get away with it because of how they came in to get the contract in the first place and all of that. So what would be your advice in dealing with such situation?
Get involved early enough and make sure that there's a line item that clearly describes your documentation requirement that they have priced into their job. Many of us just assume that they owe us this documentation. They don't. Some contractors can actually build without even having one single way bill on file. I've seen a project, massive project, where they don't have any organized filing system where documents were kept. You understand? They don't owe you that. But if you tell them that in this 7 billion of work you are doing, there is a 20 million that you have quoted for documents 1 to 20, document 1, this specification, document 2, this specification to 20, clearly analyzed, and they put 20 million there, they will make sure that they produce those drawings for you and those documentations for you. Most of us ignore them, and many FM are not involved at the stage of planning, design that produces construction drawings and contracts to ensure that a robust handover documentation set is built into the contract. Then we begin to cry foul.
So if I get what you're saying, so we are supposed to get involved early at the planning stage of
yes
of the
project.
What's the project, and begin to, is it demand for those things or begin to come up with them ourselves as FM?
No, begin to work with the team to make sure they are being produced. Ensure for a start that the consultants and the contractors build it into the scope of work, because this is where it falls apart. People take commissioning as if it's a last mile project. It's an end of project activity. It's not. Commissioning starts from the beginning. Commissioning activities must be built into a project program of work, schedule, and costs continuously. There is where you will now fit in the contract a set of commissioning documentation that you must take as handover documentation in the beginning. Once that enters, once you can convince management to build that requirement into the project, your job will now be to ensure that those requirements are being met and they are being paid for it. All right, David. If you do you have another question?
No, I'm done for now.
All right, thank you. David, please go ahead.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening, welcome.
Thank you. I must say the lecture was revealing. And, okay, so I have this question from observation, everything joined together. No observation regarding the class, but as it applies to my work. So I have a situation where, okay, we have talked about strategic planning and how we need to be involved and, all that, strategic focus level, strategic planning level. Well, here's the thing, in my own kind of work, I work for a company that I manage the properties, their investment and all that. But the investment, is not in short, I won't call it investment because these properties are not for investment purposes. They are probably staff quarters.
Please, can everybody switch off their
properties,
mics, please?
Family properties and all whatnot. And in this kind of a thing, the MD has taken the decision, and then all he does is, okay, FM, come around, let's have a meeting. We have decided on this, we want to do this, we want to do that. Okay, go ahead, collect DOQ from companies, things like that. And then sometimes at some stage, you see some loopholes. For instance, we have a project whereby, in fact, currently we have a project where instead of us getting a contractor, analyze the whole project and then come up with a robust quotation. We have a situation where we're treating, we want to renovate what's it called? Security house. We do that differently. We have an open space in the office where we want to partition. That one comes after that. We are handling these things as different projects, which is consuming time, is consuming funds also. Because the situation where in a whole project, let's say the contractor is supposed to get, say, 500,000 for professional charges. We see a situation where for the gatehouse alone, we are paying close to 200,000 for professional charges. And I'm not talking about labor, that has not been factored in at all. I'm talking professional charges. So how do you now enforce? How do you try to break that chain, so that you can get involved and put your professionalism into play? And then how do you sell it to them?
Okay. All right. So the first problem I see here, and this is common to many FMs, the FM think that is entitled to being elevated to strategic level by management. No, you actually elevate yourself through your analytical and strategic efforts. For example, all of those projects you're mentioning, were you able to envisage them in advance? Because before a management will come and say, let's partition this room, there's a problem or a need or an opportunity. Before he will say, let's build a gatehouse, there's a problem or a need or an opportunity. Before he will say, let's add one floor to this building or fence this place off. An FM should be ahead of the curve. That's what this class is about. Your job.
If I can come in there. Yes. Okay, it's a situation where, so my company has a sister company owned by the same owners, and then we move from where the family company usually resides to our own company. Yes. I got into the company late 2019.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, by February or January last year, they had purchased a building, of which maybe because I just came in, the transaction had been going on. They had to do it behind me. Yes. So I came in at a point where some of these decisions had been taken, and I was not privy to it. And then they had already documented, okay, we will have to do this, we will have to do that. And then I couldn't be carried along. There was no time for me to even say, oh, this, I understand we need to do this, but we can't do it this way.
Okay.
So that's the situation.
Okay.
And then moving forward also, how, yeah, exactly.
Now, so this is it. When you move into a new setup, the first instinct is to start operating the place, start maintaining the place, start doing the things we know as FMs. It's okay. After all, you cannot sit back and let the operation crumble, right? But if within 6 months, you've not started gathering data, performing the analysis we have talked about today, developing documentation for understanding of the organization, so that it is based on the information of trends in the past, data of what you have come to meet, that you can now map out what you feel is decision-making pattern, for example, of the bosses. The kind of problems every action has solved, you find it. You can come and say, oh, they bought a new place. Okay, so why? You want to find out. You want to document why they bought a new place. The space we had was too small. Workers were increasing, or there was inconvenience working with another company nearby or another organization nearby. You want to understand. So that next time when you are in that new place and it's getting to time to move again, it will be coming from you because you know what led to previous decisions. That's my point. Spend time understanding management. I do not teach at any time that management should understand us. It's not their job to understand us. We don't enforce nothing on management. It is our job to align with the thinking of management and be in that alignment, provide analysis and supporting data for future decisions that helps management notice that we are becoming strategic. If all I do is take instructions and go and implement it very well, nobody will ask me before they give me instructions. Nobody will tell me why they are telling me what I should go and do. They will just come, give me the instruction to go and implement. But if they see that even before they come with their instructions, I have done some form of analysis that is tending towards what they were thinking. Oh, yes, I've been thinking about that problem. So you have been thinking about it too, eh? So the things that's making me have sleepless nights is also worrying you, which means you are taking the burden off my shoulder. Next time, they will call you. What are you thinking about now? That's the whole idea. That has put you ahead of the curve. You are seeing things in a strategic level. You are seeing things with the eyes of your directors. You see, all of those keeping it within the family, doing things so that the funds can be rotating within family businesses should be your goal. If it is their goal, it's not a problem. That's why I said, you push for it, but then put in your quality considerations. For example, check to be sure that that family business that is going to do the construction is being paid for the as-built drawings. I will need as-built drawings to manage this place effectively. Can we put a line item so that they can quote and be paid for it? They'll be very happy. It's a win-win for everybody, for you, for your boss who is giving the job, and for the family business who is taking the job. They all get paid and they're all happy. It's for us as FMs to strive for understanding, alignment, and vision. That vision must be to enable the organization achieve what it's trying to achieve. Okay? So there's no problem yet. Okay? What you just need to do is start now to use these tools that we have discussed to start documenting your understanding and then start creating analysis and planning. Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Daniel. Is Daniel able to speak now?
Evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much for this course. I've learned so much for the past few days. I mean, few lectures that we have taken so far. I want to just talk about this life cycle process.
Yes.
From this lecture, I realized that I've been actually doing the right thing by trying to prognosing to, involving, trying to intrude into management process, the real estate company. Sometimes they don't even want to let you know, let you know what they are try to do, the design, the planning, and all that you have mentioned. You know, so sometimes I have to force myself on them to understand all that they're trying to design and also construct.
Very good. Very good.
Find ourselves in a real estate company where they don't even care. They don't care if facility management exists until at the completion.
It's not their fault. It's not their fault. We as FMs have no reason to the occasion. We don't even have enough FMs in Nigeria to do what we are teaching right now. If every company decides to do what we are teaching right now, there will be a collapse of the system. Please continue.
So I realized that I've been doing the right thing by involving every process of the company.
Very
good. In planning, I ask questions and all that. So sometimes people look at me and say, what are you doing here? You are in facility management. What are you doing here? It has not come to the stage that you step in. You know, but from this very lectures now, I have every reason why I should be part of every of the process that the real estate company want to implement.
Thank you.
So the big problem is testing and commissioning. Well, sometimes this testing happens, but the big challenge is the handing over process. We have been a kind of hammering on, stressing that there must be a need for documentation and all that in the process of handing over. But that has never been in place, fully in place.
Yes.
Started, stopped.
Yes.
So and it comes back sometimes to also headhunters because okay, well, if this some certain things are left undone.
Yes.
Because there is no evidence that that particular thing has been signed off.
Yes.
You see that we don't have option than to come back to it.
Yes.
And
so my advice for you would be this: pick out a few of those items, about 10 of those items I highlighted in those 3 lists, right? And then try to do something like a small business case so that management will consider writing those requirements into the contracts for the project team. Once you make that business case and they see that it is something that will be valuable, of course, that business case is going to have a lot of information you're going to feed into it. For example, can you catalog all the issues that you have been encountering for years and how much it has cost the organization? You understand? And use that to justify making these little adjustments to save that money in the future. That will go a long way, but it takes time and effort to develop this business case I'm talking about, and a lot of creativity. But then once management accept that business case from you, the next thing they will do is they will give you a seat in the site meetings where all the consultants and contractors and people are going to be talking about things to be done on site. That gives you your first inroad And that did not happen because they just felt facility management should come in. No, it's because they felt facility management is contributing something valuable that they don't want to miss out on. You must establish that value before they can bring you to that table. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Maritala, last question.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Good evening. Your audio is better now. Go ahead.
Yeah, my only question is that do FM companies, do they really come in during design and construction? Because from the best of my knowledge, it is after the construction has been completed, that is when the client might decide to hire a maintenance company to take over the building. And sometimes the contractors are being mandated to train the FM staff, and you see them, even the staff, they'll be like, okay, what is this? What is this? And it will take those machines and equipment. So I'm surprised when you said FM are supposed to be involved, the FM are involved in the planning, they are involved in construction, because from my side, I have never seen any maintenance person coming in and say, okay, I'm from FM.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I want to know what I've got.
Okay, I think I got the gist.
So that's
the audio has been going so.
So do are they involved, or they are supposed to be involved?
Okay, let me explain what Muritala is saying. The audio was really cracky when you were talking. So his experience is that FMs are invited at the end, and he's surprised that I'm saying that FMs should get involved at the planning and design stage. And then FM companies come in at the end, and the construction team are asked to train their workers, the FM workers, on what to do and so on and so forth. Now, the standard is this. The owner that is planning to acquire an asset or a facility is the one that needs to already have an FM, either as an in-house team member or as a consultant. In fact, for those who are having their first development, they may not have an in-house FM. While putting together consultants for the project, they are supposed to find an FM consultant, someone with experience managing facilities and people, to be part of that process, to review the designs, to visit the site during construction, attend site meetings, and control variations, and all of those things that we discussed, right? Now, some owners or developers do have FMs, but the FMs are operating at the operational level, not even tactical, let alone strategic. They don't see the value of bringing that FM to come and be on the table where big decisions are being made, because he's still measuring the level of diesel, dipping stick inside the diesel tank. He's counting the soap that are left and the tissue that are left in the store. It's not that FM that is, counting tissue that will now be discussing strategic things, because it's still at the shop floor. It is the FM that is beginning to do analysis, that is beginning to write business cases, to have certain changes to processes, to have certain additions to contracts, to have certain reviews done on designs. You are making a case to save management 200 million in the next 50 years by asking management to spend just 1 million extra in this stage, by using all kinds of tools to show management that you understand the organization, you understand what they are trying to build, and you are ready to add value. That is the time when they begin to bring you up. And quite honestly, we already have the problem of few FM. When I say few FM, I'm talking about FM that have received any type of training at all, even if it's a 1 day or 1 hour free training in this country, it's not up to 500 people. For the size of our portfolio in Nigeria and the number of facilities that needs to be managed. For FMs that identify themselves as FM at all, people that say, oh, I feel I'm an FM, I'm an admin, a receptionist or whatever, I feel I'm an FM. Even though they've not received any kind of training at all, they're not up to 2,000 people. So you might have people who are in facility management for years, but have never, ever done anything strategic. They have never been invited. They themselves have never found a need to do the kind of analysis that will elevate them in their career. That is what we are trying to change by teaching you this. Usually when we teach this particular course, we teach it to very experienced FMs in large organizations. But what we found was that by that time it's too late. Your career has gone the wrong direction. You made too many mistakes. So that's why we're bringing it down. Do you know that once you finish from this program, any organization you are working in, the way you think, the way you do things will be so different. It will be so different. The things you used to argue against, you will not be arguing for it. The things you used to resist, you will not be welcoming it. It will just show that you have elevated yourself. And that's where we want to get to. So yes, retailer, we are not there yet, but everybody should start working on himself to get to that point where you are invited to the dinner table. Because in our industry, it's either you are sitting on the table or you are the menu. Either you are making decision or decision is being made about you. That's what that means. On this note, I'll sign out this evening and say, have a nice evening. Please do your assessment. It's due on Saturday. It's right there in this particular class. Please don't fold it away for today and wait till tomorrow because you may forget. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.